thank you for joining us for this edition of Quick Slants presented by Nissan. For Barrett Brooks, I'm Derrick Gunn. 2 weeks from tonight, NFL Draft 2019 kicks off down in Nashville. And I want to ask you this as we start this show. What was the pre-draft process like the last couple of days for you leading up to that big night?
Well, it was kind of crazy because my draft, if you remember, was the same draft Warren Sapp was in. And there were 12 other guys that had tested positive, including Warren Sapp, for marijuana. So because of that, it kind of messed up the draft order. So when they called me and told me, hey, we want you to go to the green room in New York to see, we're going to draft you because you're projected to be a first rounder, late to, first rounder. So I'm like, no, I'm not going. Just in case.
I didn't
want to sit in that green room. So I got a hotel room in St. Louis and stayed there. So, it ended up being a great decision for me. But I can remember, sitting back and waiting for somebody to call. So pick 31, Kansas City said, all right, we're about to pick you up. And then they hung the phone up. And then the 31st pick came. They picked up Trezell Jenkins. Trezell Jenkins is a draft pick that they picked up the 31st, first rounder. They picked him up because they worked out a contract earlier. Mm-hmm. I actually got picked up the 58th pick and made more money than him over the long run of my contract.
Wow.
I signed for about $1.7 million. He signed for under that. He was a first rounder, picked in the first round. So they got him for the cheap. Long story long, I ended up playing 12 years in the NFL. He played 2 years in the NFL, only played in 9 games. Never played after that. He went to 2 other teams, never played it down after that. So Kansas City, I guess I got the upper hand on him. But, I enjoy, telling people that story.
All right, let's take a look at what the Eagles are working with ammunition-wise for this upcoming draft. Right now, the Birds have 7 picks. They have their own first and second round picks. Plus, they picked up the Ravens' second rounder in a trade during last year's draft. They don't have a third rounder after trading it for Golden Tate, but they do have a pair of fourth rounders and 1 pick in both the 6th and the 7th rounds. Now, Barrett, we all know Howie Roseman likes to wheel and deal. How likely is he to make a move with those first 3 picks in particular?
Well, you know what? I don't think that he's going to stay at 25. There's no way he stays at 25. We know he likes to wheel and deal, and plus he has a surplus of 2 second-round picks and 2 fourth-round picks. He could use it in a way that he can move up in the first round to maybe get an impact defensive lineman, a guy that can come in and play right now. And at this point, I think Christian Wilkins out of Clemson, he could be a guy that they look at and be favorable playing the opposite side of Fletcher Cox. He can come in, has great hands, can get up the field, great penetrator, had a very good career at Clemson, won a couple national championships with Clemson. He can come in and be a dominant force opposite of Fletcher Cox. We all know how they do things. Mm-hmm. They make sure that when they draft somebody who can come in and play, they run a rotation of 8 defensive linemen. So he'd be great in a system where he wouldn't necessarily be starting, but he would play just the same amount of reps as the starters that are in front of him. So he'd be a good pick. But of course, you know what I want. I want my guy Devin Bush. I wish they would trade up, and it wouldn't be a lofty trade up. They'd probably have to give up a 4th rounder and switch places with a team right around 18, 19, and 20 for Devin Bush.
Yeah.
Linebacker out of Michigan. He's a guy that can come in and solidify the interior of the defense. We need that go-getter, that guy that, Jalen Smith, down in Dallas. You look at him, Vander Esch down in Dallas. You look when I played against, the likes of linebackers that come in and really like Ray Lewis. Guys that come in. James Ferrier played with me in Pittsburgh. You want a big-time middle linebacker that offensive coordinator say, look, we got to figure out where this guy is because he can blitz, he can cover, he can do all these things and get his guys in the right position. I want a linebacker like that. Devin Bush will probably be the guy that I think we should go up and get.
To me, Howie Roseman always has the draft itch. There's no way in the world he's going to sit pat for 3 days and not try to make a move of some kind to move up. I can see him taking his first-round pick at 25 and possibly trying to package that with the latter of his 2 second-round picks and possibly trying to move up in the top 15.
Or one of the 4s also.
Or one of the 4s also to get a player he desperately wants because it keeps ringing in my ear what he told us in January about how deep this draft is in defensive linemen. And, of course, we all know how the Eagles love their defensive linemen. I could also try to see them packaging up one of those 4th-round picks maybe with a second-round pick or maybe the 2 4th-rounders trying to move up into the 3rd round. round and get somebody you really want there, because supposedly the draft is deep in a number of positions across the board this year, unlike how the draft thins out of certain positions in years gone by.
Like offensive lineman.
Absolutely. You know, we know they need an offensive lineman in the future as well. And not all of them are going to go in the first round this year. So Howie Roseman, if you don't do anything in this draft, I would be utterly shocked.
I would also.
He would stand pat. The only way Howie Roseman doesn't do something in the draft of some kind of significance is if he can't find a trade partner willing to give Howie what he wants, and the team obviously getting what they want in return.
Well, he's been GM of the year once already, so I'm looking at him to go out there and pat himself on the back and get it again.
All right, now aside from the upcoming draft, the Eagles have some other business to take care of, and that is trying to get Carson Wentz an extension. Meanwhile, down in Dallas, the scuttlebutt there is. The Cowboys are also trying to work an extension for their franchise quarterback, Dak Prescott. So when it all pans out, who's going to get more money?
It's got to be Dak. At this point, you know, the best ability is availability. He has been available in all his games. He's played in all his games, even though the numbers are kind of similar. And if you look at Carson has played more. I mean, if Carson's played less than Dak and Dak has played more, their numbers are kind of the same. But he's been out there consistently. He has been on the field, you know, the entire time. And we can't say that of Carson at this point. So at this, you know, if you look at it, they got to make sure that they reward him for what he's accomplished. I mean, they beat us and they swept us last year. You know, you got to look at that's a great accomplishment for his, you know, for his team. They have to reward him. And at this point, I think he needs to be rewarded in a way in which they compensate him for what he's able to do. He's done more than Carson at this point. He's played more games than Carson at this point. So he deserves more money than I feel Carson deserves at this point.
Well, you look at the numbers, and overall, including playoffs, Dak 33 wins, Carson 23. Dak 72 touchdown passes, Carson 70. Interceptions, Dak 27, Carson 28. Sacks, Dak 117, Carson only 92 because of his escapability. Rushing yards, Dak 1,033 to Carson's 575. Rushing touchdowns, 20-2 in favor of Dak. Playoff wins, 3 for Dak, none for Carson. Now, I thought Dak Prescott regressed a little bit in 2018, but when you look at his numbers, he completed just under 68% of his passes, and his interception ratio went down to 8 in 2018 compared to 13 in 2017, and his QB rating compared to 2017 went up. So when you compare the numbers as of right now, I think in the long run, Carson is going to be a much better quarterback and be able to carry a team on his shoulders a lot better. But right now, numbers-wise, Dak Prescott holds the edge.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, once he got Cooper, all his numbers went up.
Sure.
The addition of Cooper, now you have a guy that can take the top off the defense. You can no longer keep that 8 defender in for Zeke, which is going to make Dak Prescott's numbers better because now he can go over the top. He can throw to do a big-time wide receiver now, as opposed to throwing somebody like Williams or something like that, you know. So, yeah, he's going to have better numbers because he's played more games, and now he has some weapons to go along with that running back that he has down there.
All right, as we move on, we stay in the division, and we just can't figure out what the Giants are doing. They continue to confuse everybody. After trading Odell Beckham, they spent $37.5 million on slot receiver Golden Tate. Then yesterday, they extended Sterling Sheppard, who is also a slot receiver. They're going to pay him $41 million over the next 4 years, $21.3 million guaranteed. Wow. Now, I'm not sure what in the world they're thinking right now, but Barrett, check out how he stacks up to the Eagle slot guy, Nelson Agholor. Now, Sheppard has a slight edge across the board statistically, but not by much. 2 more catches and 100+ more yards. Barrett, will you be willing to give Agholor that kind of money, or is this going to be the final year for Nelson Agholor in an Eagles uniform?
Well, I don't think it's going to be the final year for him because if you look at them, their numbers are comparable, and Sterling has been out there being a starter at the slot position his entire career. Now, if you look at it, the NFL has, the way their salaries are being set up, everything is slotted. There's not going to be much deviation on, you know, the price of what guys are getting these days.
Right.
It's slotted, so if you look at it, it's right around the norm. He's making $9 million this year. That's exactly what slot receivers are getting paid this year to be slot receivers. So if you look at a guy like Golden Tate, he just signed a contract, $37.5 million over 4 years, which averages right around $9 million. Sterling Sheppard just signed for 40-something million for 4 years, right 10. So he's right in the middle of what both guys are making because his results and what he brings to the table is right along what they do. we got to pay the man if you want him to stay. And I think he's good enough. He'll be able to go out there and play better than he's been playing because he'll have more opportunity to show that he can play. It's not a lack of effort. It's not lack of him going out there and producing. It's lack of him getting the ball. We all know last year during a certain part of the season that Carson Wentz loved to throw to his tight end. He wasn't necessarily throwing to his wide receivers. So since he was throwing to Zach Ertz so much, of course, Nelson Agholor's production will go down. When, if you look at it, when Gold Tate came in, of course, Nelson Agholor's production is going to go down also. It's not that he doesn't have the capabilities of doing it. Mm-hmm. He just needs to be given an opportunity to do it. And I think with Carson coming back, going to, go out there and make sure that he gets the ball to all his receivers, it'll put him in a better position to show that he is one of the top-tier slot receivers in the NFL.
Everybody's looking for that so-called deep threat, the guy who can take the top off of defense. And you look at the Giants, they're inundated at the slot position. They have Golden Tate, Sterling Sheppard now, and then, of course, they have the tight end Evan Ingram. They don't have a burner on the outside. Right. Now, the Giants have the 6th and the 17th picks in the upcoming draft this year in the first round. We're assuming they're going to take a quarterback with the first pick. They need a lot of help on defense. I'd be shocked if they don't take some type of edge rusher with that second pick in the first round. But they also have the 37th overall pick in round number 2. I would be surprised if they wouldn't address a receiving position at that point. There's still going to be a lot of good receivers left on the board at that spot in the second round. So the Giants are in a good position to get 3 quality players that can help them out right away. But right now, it looks like Eli Manning's going to be dinking and dunking his way up and down the field. You know how he hates to get hit? With him, it's duck and chuck. Somebody yells grenade, he's about to drop before anybody else in the whole stadium. So he's not going to hold the football too long. Now, we've seen offenses where the dink and dunk technique, it does work at times, but eventually coordinators are going to figure that mess out. You've got to have somebody like a Deshaun Jackson, somebody like an Odell, somebody like a Jarvis Landry who can get down the field and take the top off of defense.
They got to get a receiver. They got to get another big-time defender. But they also got that shore up that offensive line. I don't care who they have at quarterback. That offensive line sucks.
All right, coming up next, there's no doubt about it. Alshon Jeffrey is a fan favorite and perhaps one of Philly's biggest sports fans as well. We're going to show you how he continues to be the man of the people. Also, could the Eagles stay local with their first pick in the upcoming draft? We will break down Delaware safety Nasir Adderley. Plus, we explain why the Birds' recent picks indicate he just might be the perfect selection.